Welcome back in our revision session. We are now in the third and last session of our revision. And now we are going to be looking at learning units 1 through to 6. Because remember, in your feedback, which we value so much, you said that you wanted us to go through all of the learning units. So that's for that reason, this last session then of our session today is going to look at learning units 1 through to 6. So I hope everyone is back in the classroom. Uh, my panel, Evidence, Bomkazi and Salama, they've got their fingers on the keyboards. They're ready to answer any questions that you have. And thank you. I was reading through the chats in the break. I see even some of you are sharing your own tips with your fellow students. I think that's fantastic. So please, if there are things that you've come across in your studies that's worked wonders and has made the difference to you, please also add that in the chat. And maybe at intervals, Salama and Evidence can also read those out to us. Because it's great if we can all share with each other to make sure that come later this week, everyone is going to slay that exam. We really care about your success and your success in this upcoming exam. Just to say again, yes, the session is being recorded. Yes, the recordings will be shared. Please check in with your lecturer if you're not sure where to find it. Obviously, it will be a bit later today. You just need to give us some time to upload it to the different platforms. Okay, so when we talk about learning units 1 through to 6, these learning units really lend themselves to integrated type questions. And what we mean by that is that the questions will now kind of take a little bit from your knowledge from all the different learning units. So when you look at a learning unit 1 through to 6 question, you mustn't look at the question and just say, okay, I'm only going to use my learning unit 4 knowledge for this question, or I'm only going to use my learning unit 6 knowledge. When we look at these questions, you must kind of open up your mind and say, hang on, did I also think, is there maybe VAT in this question? Did I also think maybe what's the double entry in this question? Did I also think what other journals could be in this question? So make sure that you're really thinking in terms that you're drawing from your knowledge from all the different learning units. And what do I mean by that exactly? Say, for example, the question says, prepare the cash book receipts. Then yes, cash book receipts come from learning unit 4. But for me to successfully prepare a cash book receipts, I have to draw on my knowledge from a lot of different learning units. For example, out of learning unit number 3, I've got to draw my VAT knowledge. I've got to draw my markup or gross margin knowledge. In Learning Unit 3, we actually show you what certain source documents look like. So I need to go and draw from that knowledge. Then in a cash book receipts, we can be receiving payments from debtors. So that's kind of Learning Unit 5 knowledge to know what to do if a debtor pays me. In my cash book receipts, I could have that extra column at the end for my cost of sales calculations. And that again is my knowledge from Learning Unit 6 to know, hang on, if this business is using perpetual inventory, I should be doing a cost of sales calculation at point of sale each time a sale is made. And then at the end, I need to post this cash book to the general ledger. And to be able to do that, I need to be able to draw on my learning unit 2 and 4 and 5 knowledge. So when you see any of the learning units 1 to 6 questions, make sure that you just quickly ask yourself, did I think about everything in the different learning units in answering this question? Because sometimes we find a student completely forgets how to calculate a cost of sales because they forget they meant to use their learning unit 3 knowledge. Or they forget how to work out VAT because that was learning unit 3. So remember to draw on all of the information when you do a particular question. So let's look now. So learning units 1 through to 6, really, as I said, they make up kind of a unit. And they're all built around our all-important bookkeeping cycle. So we learn about this bookkeeping cycle right up, probably on the first day that you were in class with your lecturer. They must have had a slide like this up on the board where they told you about the bookkeeping cycle. And remember, the cycle starts with a transaction that takes place, and this transaction then gets recorded onto a source document. And Learning Unit 1 tells us how do we define or what is a source document? And that's again where your theory knowledge now comes in. So Learning Unit 1 tells us a source document is a paper-based or electronic transcription of a financial transaction. And some of you might remember in that second semester test, we asked you to tell us what is a source document. And some students really struggle to articulate and to tell us exactly in their own words what is a source document. So remember again the importance of knowing your theory, because if you can't tell us what is a source document, how are you going to know what to do with the source documents when we later get to our later learning units? So in Learning Unit number 3, section 3.5, we actually show you pictures of each of the different source documents with a little description. So please go and have a look at those so you know what does a invoice look like, what does a credit note look like, what does an EFT look like. And then in Learning Unit 4, that all-important page 107. Then we take our source documents and we now record them into the different journals. Learning Unit 1 again tells us what is a journal. A journal is a table that summarizes similar transactions. So we have one journal for credit sales, one journal for all our cash receipts, one for our cash payments. So similar types of transactions is recorded in tables. And then when it comes to the application, in Learning Unit 4, then we show you how to do your cash journals, cash book receipts, cash book payments, petty cash journal. And in Learning Unit 5, we add to that your credit journals, your debtors allowances, credit journal, creditors allowances, and your general journal. At the end of the month, now we've written up all our journals. We post our source documents into our journals, and now we're ready to post the journals to the general ledger. And what is a general ledger? That is a collection of accounts. So remember, in your general ledgers, where you have all your little T accounts. And to be able to do a question on the general ledger, you're going to draw from your Learning Unit 2, 4, and 5 knowledge. And in our second session, remember, we said we also post the journals to the debtors and creditors ledgers, where we post the individual transactions, and that we cover with you in Learning Unit number 7. Then we come now the end of the month. We've now prepared our general ledger, and now we're ready to do the trial balance for that month. How do we define a trial balance? That is a list of balances and totals of all the general ledger accounts. And again, in both Learning Units 4 and 5, in the examples and in the questions, you will see there's questions on how to prepare your trial balance. So as we said earlier then, we repeat this bookkeeping cycle 12 times, once for every month in the financial year. And that then brings us back to Learning Unit 9, the year-end procedures. And that's then where we started this morning. So we started this morning at the end, but now we're first looking at the beginning part of what we do on a monthly basis. In a first year accounting, you must remember there's really only a few key transactions that we can test you on at this level. And if you can understand how to record these transactions, then there's really not much we can ask you on those first learning units that you can't do. So the basic transactions that you must make sure you understand is how to record the owner contributing either cash or an asset, how to record a withdrawal from the owner, and again, that can be cash or an asset, How do we record if we buy inventory or assets and we buy it for cash? How do we record the purchase of inventory or assets on credit? How would we record any other cash expenses? How will we record inventory that we either sell for cash or for credit? If we take out a loan or we repay the loan, and then in terms of our debtors and creditors, how do we record it when we settle with a creditor or when the debtor pays us and there's maybe a discount? There can be discount as well. So those are your sort of a typical first year transactions. And you must say to yourself, can I do those transactions in an accounting equation question? Could I write them up in the different journals? Do I know what they will look like in the general ledger? And can I do them in the debtors and creditors journal? Then you also have to say to yourself, would I be able to do these transactions if they included or excluded VAT? And also, can I do all of these transactions for both inventory systems? So can I do this for perpetual inventory and can I also do it for periodic inventory? And if you can answer yes, 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 yes to all my questions, then you know you are well prepared for these learning units for an assessment question. So let's just look again at our journals specifically. Remember the two big categories of journals. We have our cash journals and we have our credit journals. And it's really important that you need to know what transaction sits in each of these journals. Because remember again, if you look at your textbook questions as well, we will give you the transactions typically in date order. So you need to be able to read through the transactions and know, okay, hang on, this one was a cash receipt, cash book receipt. This one was a credit sale, debtors journal. This one was interest on an outstanding or overdue account, general journal. So you need to be able to match up transactions with the correct journal. And again, this is again where we come back to my favorite page, or my second favorite page, page 107. Because on this page again, and I think Evidence took you nicely through this at the end of our previous session, where she showed you how to read this table, where we have the name of the journal, and you can see it's highlighted with those big yellow arrows. Next to it is the abbreviation, the correct abbreviation for that journal. Then we have the type of transaction that must be recorded in the journal. And then we've spoken about that last column that also shows you the source document that matches up. So this is the first page of Learning Unit 4 of your textbook. So please make sure you really revise this page then as you prepare for the exam. So as I said, for each of our journals, you must be able to say, what type of transactions do I match with that journal? So out of that group of basic transactions that I had up a bit earlier, you must now essentially, let's just go back there. Yeah. So you need to be able to take these main groups of transactions, and you need to be able to match them up with the journal where you're going to be recording each of those groups of transactions. And then again, as I said earlier, your questions to yourself is, do I know how to record this transaction in this journal? Do I know how to post this journal to the general ledger? Do I know which source document is going with this particular transaction and journal? And if I do it in the general ledger, can I also do it for the accounting equation? So you have to, this afternoon, maybe just sit quietly and come back to these and just say, am I able to do all of these? Because that's what we can expect of you with these transactions. Hey, everyone still with me? How's it going there in the chats panel? Are you still keeping up with all the questions? Oh my goodness, I'm still seeing the shocked face emoji coming up. I was hoping we'd see more smiling faces now, but I still see that little shocked, very, very shocked face coming up there in the emojis. Um, Okay, so now let's look a little bit at past paper questions again, and we go back to our 2024 exam paper. And actually, interestingly enough, in last year's exam, the journal that they chose to test was actually the general journal. So in last year's exam paper, they actually didn't ask the other journals. The one they specifically tested was the general journal. And I actually just saw a question coming up in the chats asking us to go through the general journal. So we definitely are going to focus on this one. And also because this one sometimes students battle with a little bit. Okay, so this was, oh, sorry.
Hi, Ina. I think one of the students want you to go back to the very, very first slide. You know, I think you were just showing how everything integrates. The first bookkeeping slide, she says, if you can just show her that. Thanks, Ina.
Okay, so let's go on then. As I said, from that 2024 exam then, interestingly enough, in this exam paper, they only tested the general journal out of all of the journals. There was a bigger question in this paper around posting from the journals, and we'll look at that just now. But in terms of the journals, it was a general journal question. So again, let's just quickly refresh. Can we remember all of our exam tips and tricks? Tip number one, remember you're going to be managing your time in this paper. You're going to be making sure that you're not overrunning, that you're not spending 30 minutes on a question that should only take you 15. And remember again, your speed is 1.2 minutes per question. So for question 3.4, then you could take around 13 minutes, and for 3.5, around about 7 minutes. So about 20 minutes to prepare these different general journal entries. Then remember your tip two that sits closely together with tip number one. How do I manage my time? How do I optimize my time? I make sure I know what exactly is required of me. I do only what is required of me. I don't do more because I'm not going to get marks for that. I only do what is required. And you can see I've actually analyzed what is required. So you actually need to go through everything in quite a bit of detail. So the first thing for both 3.4 and 3.5, the first thing we notice is we have to be preparing a general journal. Okay, so already in our mind, we know when we now read the paragraph above it, that's what we need to keep in our mind. What will this transaction look like in a general journal entry? The second thing they tell us, ignore document numbers, dates, and folios. So already we know they're not going to give me time or marks for that. So I must leave that out. The third thing is they tell me I must provide a narration. So if they're saying to me, give a narration, it means I'm going to get marks for it. So I mustn't forget about that. And then the fourth thing is they just remind me again that there is VAT. There's VAT implications in these transactions, and the VAT rate is 15%. So they're giving you kind of like a little hint already to say, don't forget about VAT when you do your entries. So earlier this morning, we said when we do a general journal entry, again, you have to think in terms of your steps. I think you'll see this is a theme through all of my slides. I love steps because if we do our steps, that means we're getting all our marks. So for general journal entries then, first thing you have to write down is what general ledger account must be debited. Then what general ledger account or accounts, sometimes it can be more, must be credited. Because it is a double entry, I'm going to check that my debit amounts equal my credit amounts. And I'm going to add that narration. And remember, in this question specifically, they reminded us to add the narrations so I can get all my marks. For me, when I'm asked to do a general journal entry, it always helps me to look at it in terms of my general ledger T accounts. So I would recommend on your A4 paper or in your answer booklet or on your exam pad to quickly write down the T accounts that is going to be involved in this question. Because if you can see the entries in T accounts, then it's pretty easy to just copy them over into the general journal format. So let's see how this works. So in this question now, the question 3.4 talks about a particular debtor that's being liquidated. With other words, the debtor is not able to pay us. They've gone insolvent. So we have to now write off the amount that they owe us. So the two general ledger accounts that immediately come to mind is it's definitely going to have something to do with the debtor's control account. And if I'm having to write off a debtor, it's going to be the credit losses. So this entry, somewhere in this entry, I must have these two general ledger accounts. But we remember in the question, they already told us, don't forget there's VAT in this question. So we have to remember, oh, hang on. Yes, it is debtors, it's credit losses, but I must remember there's VAT in this question as well. And in this case, specifically input VAT. And that brings us to our next tip. So for every transaction that we give you in the assessment, you have to quickly think through it and you have to say, the amount that they're giving me in the question, does this amount already include VAT? Does it exclude VAT? Or is it maybe one of those other supply categories that we were taught about in Learning Unit 3? Is it zero rated? Is it exempt? Is it non-allowable? And in the assessments, we like to mix things up. So sometimes we will give you the amount including that. And then you have to work out the amount excluding that. Then in the next transaction, we might give you the amount excluding that. And we expect you to work out the amount including that. So make sure that you don't just go into autopilot and just say, oh, I know all of these amounts include that. Just make sure that you read every single transaction carefully and just make sure whether we didn't try and mix things up and maybe give you something that you didn't expect. So again, just make sure you're reading everything that we give you. Okay, so in the general journal then, how are we going to record the transaction? First, we're going to write down which general ledger accounts am I going to debit. We're going to debit the credit losses account. And in the credit losses account, that's an expense account. And we're going to use the amount excluding VAT. So I'm going to use my Learning Unit 3 VAT calculations. Then we're going to also debit. So we're going to debit two accounts. We're also going to debit the input VAT account. And in that account, we're going to put the actual VAT amount. And then we're going to credit the debtors control account. And remember, when we talk about the debtors, we're always using the number including VAT. And we're not just going to credit the debtors control account, we're also going to credit that individual debtor in the debtors ledger. So we're going to put both that pieces of information in our general journal entry. And if you quickly add up, if I add up my two debit amounts, those two amounts together must equal the credit amount, because as we said before, this is a double entry, so debit must equal credit. And then the last thing is they told us, write down your narration, which is that little short sentence. What is this entry about? It is about us having to write off the debtor student resident number 2. And of course, you can see I've highlighted here in blue. Which tip am I reminding you of if I'm highlighting in blue? Tip number 3, you are going to be showing workings. So it doesn't matter which learning unit question you are answering, we always want to see your workings. Now, if I take this same transaction and I now do the general ledger accounts, then this is what my general ledger accounts would look like. So this is what I could have quickly just dotted down on my paper just to help me in my mind have a kind of a mental picture of what does this transaction look like. And then if I now take those general ledger accounts and I convert them to a general journal entry, then it's actually much easier. So you can see I've debited the input VAT and credit losses accounts. So in the general journal, you can see my first two accounts are the accounts that I'm debiting, credit losses and input VAT. In the general ledger, which account did I credit? I credited the debtors control account. And there in the general journal, I'm going to literally write that down. I'm crediting the debtors control account with 28,950 rands. So here you can see what the entry looks like in the general ledger. And it's that exact same entry that I'm now just rewriting in my general journal format. Now, this question actually had two parts. So that's again important that you must make sure you are reading your full question, because if you stopped after that first set of entries, then you're only getting half the marks, because there's actually two things happening in this question. Yes, we have to write off 75% of the balance that the debtor is never going to pay us. But there's also a second part to the transaction, and that is the debtor is able to pay us 25%. So they can pay us a quarter of their balance, just not the whole balance. So there's a second transaction that I also have to record in the general journal. And on your slides now, if you look at the top, it's now the top transaction, and that's now for the cash that was received. Now, normally, cash receipts goes in the cash book receipts, but sometimes, and I think you also saw that in your semester test too, that question 4, sometimes we can ask you to do a general journal entry of an entry that actually normally goes into a different journal. So please just be on the lookout for questions like that. So it is possible, for example, that this cash entry had to go in the general journal. So just make sure you look out for things like that in the assessment. And then here, I'm also now just showing you again what these entries will look like in the general ledger. And that's on the left-hand side of your screen. And then what those same two entries will look like in the general journal. That's on the right-hand side of your screen. And just to show you, we're writing exactly the same thing, whether we're in the general ledger or in the general journal. And now, if you look at the debtors control account, at the end of these two entries, that account balance is now 0 because we've now written off the debtor. The next question that they asked us to do was where we had credit losses recovered. And the specific thing that you had to look out for here is, remember, if it is a debtor that we previously wrote off as a credit loss, and they then at some point in the future come and pay us, then the credit entry goes to credit losses recovered, which is an income account. And you can see in that entry there, we do not use the debtors control, because as far as we're concerned, that data has been written off. This is now just a pure windfall for the business. It's just income that we're receiving. And if you go back to your learning unit number 7, and specifically question 7.3, you will see that is a specific question that's very similar to this question 8.3. As I said earlier, when we do first year accounting, there's really only a specific number of transactions that we can test you on. And the same applies to your general journal. So for your general journal, again, there's only about 6 different types of transactions that we can test you on. And if you understand what these transactions look like in the general journal, then you can do most of the general journal type questions in assessments. So again, just later circle back to this slide. I'm just going to go through it pretty quickly because I'm worried about our time. Just later go through these entries and just make sure you can do the general journal entries for them. For things like the drawings, the settlement discounts, and the correction of errors, there you must make sure which inventory system is being used because that will impact those entries. And question 5.4 is a really excellent revision question to practice general journal entries. So if you haven't revised that question yet, I would highly recommend you go and practice that question because it has really got just about all the variations in one question. And then just to bring us back to this slide then, so make sure that for each journal, you know what type of transaction sits in that journal. And examples 4.1 and 5.1, they're really excellent examples to show you all the different journals. And there's also textbook question 5.8 and 6.7. Those are also really good questions to help you practice your journals. Panel, I'm back to you. Are there any questions or anything you just want to add for our students when it comes time to prepare the journals?
I would say a lot of the question papers tend to deal with the other journals. There isn't really a lot of question papers that specifically do general journal, but I have noticed that if the students could check the exam papers for 2022 and 2017, there are questions that are actually exclusively just requiring a general journal. So that would actually be a very good activity for them to practice how to record in the general journal with. And then there's a student that asked about VAT. Okay, in the cash book receipts, we do not have input VAT because we are actually, in most cases, selling either our goods or services. And remember, when we are selling goods or services, we need to charge output VAT. We are not necessarily buying anything in the cash book receipt. So that's why we don't have an input VAT. Input VAT is for when we are buying goods and services. So we are normally buying in the petty cash journal, creditors journal, and the cash book payments. And please remember that each and every journal has a specific purpose. So that is why you won't find certain things under certain journals. Thank you.
Hey, Bomkazi and Salama, have you got anything else to add for our students? Sorry, before you jump in, I just want to say, I see one of my students is asking us to go back to the UIF slides. Please, if I can ask you, if you wouldn't mind just checking back to those slides once the recordings are uploaded. Otherwise, it's going to take away a little bit of our time from these revision questions. Salama, Bomkazi, anything you want to add from your sides?
Hi, Ina. Maybe just a reminder again, as in the previous sections, that we do have, and I think you also mentioned it earlier, that they need to show us their calculations. Okay, for especially for the if they're going to have to calculate cost of sales in the perpetual inventory system. Okay, or for example, here when we were doing the recording in the general journal. So please just do show your calculations, and most importantly, apply your debt click rules again when you are posting to your general ledger. Okay, thank you, Ina. Thanks.
Great, thanks very much for the input there. Bomkazi, any last minute comment from your side?
Nothing from my side. I think Salama has already mentioned, because I wanted to talk about showing the calculations. So Salama has already covered that. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, guys, I'm muting myself now. That's not so good. If I may just add that where Evidence said you can look at past papers, just be mindful if you look at our very old past papers that in the meantime, the VAT, for example, the VAT rate has changed. And also some of the accounting treatments have a little bit changed, things like that. UIF threshold has changed. So please just be mindful of those kinds of things if you are looking at the very old versions of our papers, that you don't end up confusing yourself for our assessment. Just make sure we use the 15% VAT rate. So just keep that in the back of your heads. Right, we're getting to the home stretch, students. Well done. Let's see what is our last things I want to just cover with you. So we're still getting ready to slay on that exam day. And we're looking still through our 2024 past exam paper. We're now looking at question number 4. And question number 4, right there, it jumps in straight away with a couple of theory questions. So again, please remember top tip number 4, make sure that you know your theory. So you can do either a standalone theory question or you can tackle our application questions. So the biggest part of question 4.4 was then a question where the student has to post to the general ledger. And so this question was a combination of your knowledge of learning units 5 and 6. So as we said earlier, again, remember in this learning units 1 through to 6, that you have to make sure you are drawing your knowledge from all the different learning units. And you don't just think, oh, this is just a learning unit 5 question, I can forget the other learning units. Remember to bring it all with you when you answer the question. So when we look at a typical learning units 1 through to 6 type question, and we read the required, the first thing we need to make sure we see in the question is which inventory system is being used, because that will impact when you post to the general ledger and how you record certain of your transactions. So if we look at this question then from last year, the question was using the periodic inventory system. How did we know that? We know it because they're asking us to do a purchases and a purchases returns and a carriage on purchases account. So those 3 general ledger accounts sit only in the periodic inventory system. So that's how I immediately knew I have to answer the question for periodic inventory. On the other hand, though, if it was a question that said perpetual inventory, for example, if we look here at the 2023 exam, in this question, we say specifically the business uses the perpetual inventory system. And the minute you see the business uses perpetual inventory, then you have to ask yourself the next question. Okay, so they're using perpetual inventory, but what are they using, markups or are they using gross margin? Because remember, that knowledge is important for you when you start doing your cost of sales calculations. That sits with perpetual inventory. So in that 2023 exam, then we told the student outright, we're using perpetual inventory for this question. And then a little bit later on, we told them it's a gross margin of 20%. Okay, so tip number 6, check your question, which inventory system is being used. And then if it is perpetual inventory, then are we talking markups or gross margin? Because remember, again, they give you different answers. And if you're still a little bit shaky on those calculations, please circle back to that recording we did for semester test number 1. In that recording, we actually went into the VAT calculations and the markup and gross margin calculations in quite a bit of detail. So please go and rewatch those older recordings. Okay, So the question says post to the general ledger. I'm just going to show you purchases just to make sure again you understand the principles when we post to a general ledger. So our purchases account, I wonder who of you will know this, but a purchases account is an expense account. Okay, so that is important because we need to make sure we know now where is this account going to increase and where is it going to decrease. And a purchase account is always excluding VAT, which is another very important fact that we need to know about purchases. So we're going to use our dead click, or I saw someone said they call this dealer. So we're going to use this. So if purchases is an expense account, it means it increases debit side, decreases credit side. And here is just, I've also just added for you the liabilities, income and capital, just so that you have the full picture of your dead click. And again, please, it comes back to your knowledge of page 53. Okay, so remember this page 53 is absolutely the bomb because again, it shows you where does all of these different accounts fit in. And then I always tell my students to add the little debits and credits. So to add dead click onto their page 53. So you have it all in one. Okay, so when we are asked to post a journal to the general ledger, here we are again with steps. We're going to follow my 3-step program. Step number 1 says, put the opening balance in first. Okay, so step number 1, I'm going to put in the opening balance. I'm going to use my dead click. I know that purchases must have a debit balance, so I know it must go on the debit side. Where do I find the opening balance? Opening balances are normally your easy marks because typically in the question, we have to give you the opening balance. So generally speaking, that is a number we're just going to give to you in the question. All that you are required to know is, do I put that opening balance on the debit or on the credit side? And to know that, I'm going to use my data click. Then step number 2 says, right, your opening balance is in. Now it's time to start posting from the journals to that general ledger account. Okay, and when we post to the general ledger, we're looking for totals. So the first number I'm going to post to my purchases account is my total credit purchases. And remember, I'm looking for the number excluding VAT because we said purchases must be excluding VAT. And I'm going to post the journal total. So I'm not going to post those 2 individual entries. Those I'm going to post to the creditors ledger. I'm only going to deal with the total, the 10108, and that's going to go to the purchases account. Remember again, we also talked about this in learning unit number 7. You're going to put in your folio. Your folio is going to tell me in which journal did I find this total, and I found the total in the creditors journal. And the details, remember the details is going to be where's the other side of this entry, and the other side of a credit purchase will be in the creditors control account. Then I'm going to take the next journal that they provided in the question, and that was a cash book payments. And so this is our cash purchases of inventory. And so we are also going to put that on the debit side because, again, it's increasing the purchases. We bought more of the inventory. Again, typically I'm going to use my journal total here. But actually in this particular question, there was only one cash purchase of inventory. So in this question, they actually didn't provide the total for us, but there was only the one entry, so that is automatically the total. The folio, I'm going to remember, that is my cash book payments. Then the next entry that we have to post, that one was from the general journal, and one of our creditors gave us a 5% settlement discount. and we need to record that. That's going to reduce my purchases balance. So you can see I'm now working on the credit side. And when we work in the purchases account, remember again, we are working in the account excluding VAT. So in this question, they told me the settlement discount was 650 rands, including VAT. So the first thing I've got to do is I've got to quickly work out the number excluding VAT. And in this slide, that tip number 5, remember we said we can mix things up. So every now and again, we can give you, like we did in this example, the amount including VAT, but you had to work out the number excluding VAT. So you always have to make sure you're just also asking yourself, okay, they're giving me the including VAT number, but is that really the number I need to use here? And in this instance, you needed to do the little calculation to get to the number excluding VAT. So when we post from the journals, and this is really key, and this is where we see a lot of problems when we're marking the papers, is that students forget to use the journal totals. The only exception to the rule is when we post from the general journal, we'll use individual transactions. And when you post out of a sundry accounts column, so if I go back to my cash book receipts, you will see if you look there right to the right-hand side, I've got that sundry accounts column and I've got the carriage on purchases. Now for those entries, you will post the individual transaction. But for anything where you have a total, there you're going to post the journal totals for us. And then the last step, step number 3, this step is again easy marks to score in a assessment. And this is the step where we're going to remember to balance an account. And to balance the account, we're going to subtract the smaller side of the account from the bigger side. So for our purchases, the debit side was the bigger of the two sides, and I'm going to subtract the credit side, and then the balance or the remainder is the 149,590. In your textbook, in Learning Unit 4, section 4.4.2, there's actually a lovely section there that takes you through how to balance different accounts. So please, if this is something you're still struggling with a little bit, please go back to your textbook to section 4.4.2. That shows you how to balance the account. In this question, they also asked us to do other general journal or general ledger accounts. These accounts you can go and just try at home, and then you can come back to this slide just to double check that you've got them all correct. The last thing out of question 4 last year in the exam, this was a proper Learning Unit 6 type question where you had to calculate cost of sales for a periodic inventory system. And of course, we know this now. We're going to show our workings. And particularly in something like this, where some amounts are added, some amounts are subtracted, you are going to show us clearly so that your marker will have no problem to understand your process and to know exactly how did you get to your 136970, and so that you can get full marks for a question like this. So in Learning Units 4 and 5 and 6, really, you must be able to prepare all your cash and credit journals. And remember again, right at the beginning of this session, I said there's only a certain number of transactions that we can really test you on. So make sure you know your basic transactions. Yes, at times we might throw in a curveball transaction, but that can only be like one in the question. We have to ask you those normal ones. You're buying stuff, you're selling stuff, your owner is taking stuff, your owner is giving stuff. So we have to kind of stick to those basic transactions. So can you record them in the journals? Do you know into which journal they fit? Can you post those journals to your general ledger? Can you prepare a trial balance once you have completed the general ledger? And then the last topic out of these learning units that we haven't looked at today is that general ledger reconciliation statement. Remember right there at the end of learning unit 5, there's that example 5.2, and I think it's question 5.6, I think, that deals and just shows you what are we going to do if the trial balance doesn't balance. How do we correct any errors or any omissions? So don't forget to include those types of questions also as part of your revision. And then all of these journals, general ledger and things, you need to be able to do it for both of our inventory systems. Okay, so you need to be able to do it for both perpetual and a periodic inventory. Panel, anything you want to add? We're getting quite close to the end, students. I know we're nearly at the 12 o'clock mark, but if you can just indulge us for another couple of minutes while we just finish up with the last few points that we want to raise with you. So on that point, evidence, Salama and Bomkazi, anything you want to just add to this, add in as for our students?
On my side, I've just posted a formula for calculating cost of sales, but I also added the minus drawings in case the owner takes any inventory for personal use. And I have come across a question paper whereby the owner was returning back the drawings of that inventory. So I just added that portion into the calculation for cost of sales. So they can maybe just note that or just try to remember how drawings of inventory will affect the overall calculation of cost of sales.
Great, thank you, Evidence. Salama and Bomkazi, anything you want to just add in for our students?
Hi, Ina. Maybe I could just also, I think Evidence mentioned that now. Very important for them to know that formula of how we're going to calculate cost of sales for the periodic inventory system. And then, of course, just to, when they are showing the workings, as you mentioned before, just the pluses and the minuses. And again, very important here, like you mentioned also with a question like, just to really take note, we will maybe throw them a curveball like you mentioned. Okay, so little things that they should take note of where we won't have to take into account with regard to transport costs, for example. So they really need to revise Learning Unit 6. There is a lovely activity in their textbooks. If they could just have a look at that again. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the last thing I just want to make you aware of before we wrap up our session for today is, of course, out of Learning Unit 2, there are the accounting equation questions that we can also ask you. And remember, the accounting equation, you need to be able to do the questions with or without VAT. So in a Learning Unit 2, we look mostly at the questions without VAT, but in Learning Units 4 and 6, they have also given you accounting equation questions with VAT. And then, of course, you need to be able to do the accounting equation for both inventory systems as well. So make sure that you are also revising these types of questions for your upcoming assessment. If you want to have a look at a typical question like that, in our 2022 exam, there was a question number 3 where the student was given a couple of transactions and they had to do the accounting equation. So remember again, first up, you're going to ask yourself which inventory system is being used. So in this question, it was perpetual inventory. Once you know it's perpetual inventory, remember, then you're going to ask yourself, is it a markup? Is it a gross margin? And here we see it's a 20% gross margin. So all of those little bits of information is important for you when you show the impact of these 5 transactions on the accounting equation. So this one you can go and practice again at home. And once you've had a chance to practice it at home, you can come back to my slide here and you can just come and double check yourself. So this is showing you, as the question was in the paper, where they said you could ignore VAT. So remember, that's now also an important thing to check for in the required. Because sometimes for a question, we might well say the business is not a VAT vendor, or you can ignore VAT for this question. And then remember again, we will not be giving you time to make VAT calculations. That's it's going to waste your time, and it's going to also impact the accuracy of some of your numbers. And then if you just want to make sure you are really up to date, you can redo this exact same question and just say to yourself, okay, how will I do this question? Or how will these transactions look if I assume this was a VAT vendor? So you can just take that exact same question again and then see what will it look like if we also had to record the input and the output VAT. So often students will ask me, please, can I get more questions? I need more questions to practice. But I actually just also wanted to show you that from the questions that is available to you, you can actually make your own questions. So if the past paper question was phrased like this, to say this was ignoring that, then you can also say to yourself, okay, let's challenge myself. Would I be able to do it if it said it was for a VAT vendor? So you can definitely try and use the same questions that we have, but try and see if you can tackle them from different perspectives. So remember when we started this morning, we said by the end of these 3 hours, this is what we want you to have gone away with. And these are the skills that we hoped this session would help you to master. So that was then where all our little tips came in. So we said, please remember the importance of managing your time in the exam and making sure that you just take the right amount of time for each question so that you can get to do all of the exam paper and you're not going to be rushing any of the questions. Remember how important it is to read your required and of understanding exactly what it is that we want from you. Make sure you check the inventory system, make sure you check the markup or gross margin, and then whether we are giving you the number including or excluding VAT. That all-important tip number 3, I want to see, we all want to see workings in your answer booklet. And tip number 4, please don't underestimate the importance of knowing your theory. Okay, so stick to your time, read your required first, show us workings, and please only use pen when you answer your questions. Okay, panel, that brings me back to you. First of all, to say thank you very, very much for your able help today. Students, please send some love to our panel. They have worked so hard today in answering all your questions and providing you with all those answers and with all those excellent extra tips and things. So please send them lots and lots of love. Thank you, Salama, Evidence, Bomkazi. You've been invaluable in your help. And then also students, I'm going to send you now some love and just to say well done for attending and sticking it out for all 3 hours. And we are in your corner. We're rooting for you, and we hope that it will go very well in the upcoming exam. Panel, I just want to open the floor to you now for your last words of wisdom before we wrap up today's session.
From my side, I'd like to say so that the list of all the
Sorry, Bomkazi, you're a little bit faint. Is it possible that you can just speak up a little bit more?
Hello, Ina, can you hear me now?
Yes, thanks. That's much better.
Oh, okay, no problem. I wanted to say the students need to make sure that they make use of all the tips that we've shared from today's session, and they need to try and practice those tips before the exam instead of trying them out for the first time in the exam. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bomkazi. Salama and Evidence, any last minute thoughts or things that you want to share with our students?
On my side, I would say, can they please try to start with the question they understand the most? That way you actually panic a bit less because what you're starting with, you're a lot more comfortable with, and then you would be able to finish those questions that you are comfortable with, meaning you are optimizing the number of marks that you can get. And once again, always show your calculations, and yeah, all the best. Yeah, give it your all, and we'll see how it goes.
Thank you very much, Evidence. Salama, from you then the last words.
Hi, Ina. I think I actually just posted a message. I just want to say thank you for all those that attended, and I'm wishing them well for the exam. They should just remain positive, breathe, and remain calm. And as Evidence mentioned earlier, start with the question you know best, and then going forward from there, it will be much easier. And not to overthink it. Sometimes I think they overthink something, and that is actually where they're wasting unnecessary time. Okay, so just also very importantly, just to stick to the tips that you've mentioned earlier. And I think it's very wise of Bomkazi to mention that now from hopefully this afternoon and today that they actually go and practice those tips. Okay, thank you so much, Ina, for everything that you've done for today. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Remember, then the recordings will be made available a little bit later today for your revision. And then also just a reminder, we will survey you in the second semester because we want these sessions to be of value to you. So if you do see a survey coming out in the second semester, please give us your input so that we can make sure that our sessions are best structured to where you need their help. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for this session, and we wish you very well in the exam.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, I see a question just came up. When should we expect the recordings? Probably later today, because there's a little bit of admin that just needs to be done on my side, and I need to share it with the different brands, and then they will have a chance to upload. So if you can just give us until sort of later today, then we should have those uploaded for you. Anyone else that's got a last minute question?